Hey, welcome everybody. Excuse me. Welcome everybody to Martinis with Scott, episode 106. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'm a little bit late. I was just on the phone with trying to buy some commodities, some steel supply here. Okay, episode 106. I want to talk to you today about this is our daily touch base, and I want to talk to you today about acclimatization in persuasion, not hitting people over the head and not sharing your journey is always a bad idea. And I'm going to walk you through an old joke called "The Cat's on the Roof," or about the cat's on the roof. And I'm stealing this from Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, runs a popular podcast and live stream every day. You can go to his blog to find this joke, but it's not his joke. It's he stole it as well, but I just want to give credit where when I steal somebody's material. And so the joke is this: Bob goes on a vacation. And he asks his moron brother, let me turn all my beeping stuff off here. He asks his moron brother to take care of his cat while he's gone. And after a few days on vacation, Bob calls to say hi to his moron brother, and his moron brother blurts out, "Your cat is dead." Well, Bob just loses beside himself with grief, and he chastises and yells at his moron brother for breaking the news to him in such an abrupt manner. And the moron brother says, how could I have done this better? And Bob explains, well, for example, you could have told me the cat was on the roof, right? And then the next time we talked, you could have said, I've done everything I can to get the cat down. I've called, I couldn't do it myself because the cat was skittish and wouldn't come near me when I was up the ladder, and almost killed myself, the ladder being shaky because they didn't have a ladder mount from Roofer's World. You see how I dropped that little gem inside there, roofersworld.com. Go buy a ladder mount. He says, I couldn't get the cat down myself. And so I've called the fire department, and the fire department's up there right now as we speak, and they're trying to get the cat down. And then the next time I called, you could have said the cat fell during the rescue and is in the hospital, recovering in the hospital. Hope things go well. And the next time I call, you can say, I've got really bad news. The cat succumbed to his injuries and passed away. And that way, I would be prepared for the bad news. And the moron brother says, I understand. He said, oh, by the way, Mom's on the roof. Sorry, I always like that joke. You can't, when you're working through adversity, you need to bring your counterparty, whoever you're trying to persuade, you need to bring them on your journey. This doesn't have to be business. It can be outside of business. Anytime you're facing conflict or adversity or bad situation. And I'm not saying you're not to be manipulative, right? I'm not saying create a story that doesn't exist, like the cat on the roof joke. I'm saying you went on a journey to get, unless it's, a fatal accident or an accident or abrupt event. But when you're negotiating something and you've concluded that it needs to go this way, and you know that the person you need to talk to isn't going to like that, you need to bring them on your journey. You need to bring them on your journey so that they can arrive at the same conclusion. I'm doing that right now. I do it every day. Becomes an issue, but we had a call about it this morning, and we're dealing with a stakeholder. I'm not going to give you the details. I know I try to share as much as I possibly can, but in the process we're going through, we have a key stakeholder who says, I want this done now. It doesn't make sense that it should be done now. It makes sense that we should delay it for 1 week. We should do these 3-4 things first. It's not going to put that stakeholder at risk. It's going to lessen the risk for this over here. And it's the right decision. But do we just go to that stakeholder and say no? Or do we bring them on the journey of making the decision that being forced into doing something, today, tomorrow is the wrong thing to do. Let's do it next week, right? Got to bring them on the journey. That's really important. You saw it in U.S. politics when Trump was involved. By the way, every time I raise politics, I get thumbs down from somebody. Doesn't matter what I say. I'll get a bunch of thumbs up and a bunch of thumbs down. And so I'm just using it as an example. I'm not taking a position, but when Trump was involved, when Trump was president, you always heard the Democrats yelling and screaming about normalization. We can't let them normalize. We can't have the language normalized. We can't have this behavior normalized. We can't have tweets normalized. What is that? That's actually a real fear. You may think the Democrats were crazy, right? And Trump derangement syndrome was crazy. But the whole normalization thing is true. That's the same, to me, the same word as acclimatizing, getting used to things. It's also like the slippery slope argument, right? You take one small step, why not take another small step? Here's something that's true in psychology. The human brain can get used to anything. Look back to historical atrocities, look back to the Nazis, look back to communism, look back to hundreds of millions of people dead. Well, 100 million people dead in those scenarios. And people got used to it. People got used to that as that being the normal. Not a good thing. So slippery slope, same sort of argument. It's like when I was younger and I wanted to buy a car. And I'd look at a car and I could afford, say, $20,000 or $18,000 for a vehicle back in the day. This is a long time ago. I know it's not much. Cars were a little bit more expensive there. So, but you got a crappy car for that amount of money. And then I'd look at the car next to it, and it was $28,000, and it was much nicer. And I said, "Oh wow, that's only $8,000 more, and I'm financing it anyways. And you spread that over 4 years, and it's like whatever per month is not much money." And then my brain would get used to, well, I think I can afford that. I can afford the $28,000. And then you'd see the $35,000 car, and a little bit of self-realization, go through the math. Yeah, I could probably stretch to do that. And then, you buy a Porsche for 150 grand. That's the slippery slope. And it's the same thing as the journey is of acclimatization, normalization. Bring your counterparty on the journey. How much time do I have? We've got another 4 or 5 minutes. We had a question from Nick. It was in the comments, not on the live stream here. He wanted to know about merchant cash advances. I'm just going to do it quick. Nick, I'm not an expert on merchant cash advances, but I will tell you this. I've actually kind of been involved in that business, and have a good friend and a business partner in the past, well, maybe even currently in New York, who's been in the merchant cash advance business. Talked to a bunch of guys in Philadelphia who started early in that business. And so and I've had one client file that was involved in that as well. It was kind of a funny story. So what a merchant cash advance is it's not a defined product today. It used to be basically an advance on credit card receipts, right? So you'd look at daily credit card receipts, and then you'd give a lump sum advance to take a cut or all of those credit card receipts for a period of time. Well, then it turned into just a way to do a small business loan. And, typically it would all be automated through fintech. So, which is a fancy word to say online. And the business, say a restaurant, would send in 6 months of bank statements. Somebody would go through and look at all the deposits. Didn't matter, cash, credit card, whatever it was. And they say, okay, well, over the 6 months, there was so much in deposits, and I'm going to lend them X% of those deposits. So if the deposits were whatever, let's call it $1 million, and this lender said, well, I'll pay 50% of that upfront, right? And so they'll write you a check for $500,000, and to pay them back, they take X amount out of your account every day directly. They just do a direct automated withdrawal of that every single day for whatever, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever their term is, a really short period of time. And much like car leasing back in the day, they never tell you the interest rate, but I can tell you it's astronomical. Some of these guys with compounding, because you're turning these loans over, are, 60, 80, 100, 120%. Like, the numbers are crazy in terms of annualized return, not usurious for the specific loan, but they're so short, and you turn it over, you get your money back so quick that the percentages drive up really, really quickly. And so that's what they are. In my understanding and experience, is somebody just looks at your deposits, decides to write you a check for that, and takes money out of your account every day or every week or whatever. And that's what that industry is. Used to be unsecured. I think in Canada, all of them are becoming secured now. So they're just registering a PPSA in Canada, and maybe some of the Americans are doing that with their UCCs. I don't know. And I'll tell you a funny story. I was working on a deal. When was that? A number of years ago, but it was in Detroit. and a Canadian lender had a first secured over this guy's business, which was in retail, and there was 15, 18 stores or something like that. And there was no hope in hell that the first secured lender was getting any money back at all. It just wasn't worth anything. There was no receivables because it was a retail store, and the inventory, a lot of it was consignment. A lot of it wasn't worth anything to begin with. There was a bunch of arrears on priority claims, being, withholding taxes and government taxes and that sort of stuff. There was no way this first secured lender was getting any money back. Yet there was a merchant cash advance company for $600,000 behind the first secured lender, and they were just scooping the account every day. And I was looking at this and I said, well, we just need to put a stop to that, because that's prioritizing the unsecured creditor, the merchant cash person, over the secured person. And before I could even get my mind around that, some other merchant cash person came in and said, I'll advance you a new $900,000 unsecured behind the bank. And my only condition is, they don't want any financial information other than deposits. It's nuts. My only condition is you got to pay out the last merchant cash advance guy for $600,000. Now I want you to think about that for a little bit, Nick, because you're entering into the finance business. That might be the stupidest thing I've ever heard a lender say in my life. I need you as a condition, as a precondition. You have to take my money and give it to that dude over there. That just never happens. And so, I mean, I had no control over this. Obviously, the company took the $900,000, paid the $600,000 to the other fellow, had $300,000 net, and then you guessed it, what happened? Like within 2 weeks, they were toast. But because their key supplier, of this case, cell phones, just pulled their contract, and that was the end of it. And there was no work for me to do. I was mostly an observer on this. But there's a war story from the merchant cash advance people. And if you're in that industry, there's a phrase for what I just described to you. It's quite common. It's not just a one-time story. I've talked to factorers and merchant cash advance people, and they go, "Oh yeah, that's something like layering or tiering, or I don't know what the word is, but it's a crazy business." But you know what? They make tons of money. They can write that stuff off, and their margins are so high that it's a great business. The risk to merchant cash advances, particularly in the U.S., is regulatory and criminal. I know for a fact a bunch of New York guys that are friends of mine got out of that business. They're concerned about RICO threats and other things from the feds. Again, not my world, but these are things that I've heard. Hope that helps you. There's lots of research that you can do on it as well. And if you want more, Nick, let me know, and I could probably get somebody on to do a Martinis with Scott interview on that. That's it for today. Thank you for the touch base, episode 106. What else do I have to tell you? That's it. Please subscribe.